Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. I am excited to share this episode with you. This is kind of the bookend to the episode that we did back in March for all the astrology heads up what to expect for 2023. We are now going to get to talk to my amazing astrologer friend, Sheetal Story. And she's going to give us the themes, the astrology, the heads up, what to know, but also some questions to be self-reflecting on that are in alignment with these themes, and so much more. This is like a really rich in information, kind of heads up what to know episode. And some of you might know if you follow me on my other platforms, if you're on my Facebook Joy Soul Spa group, which I would love it if you would be there. I do a weekly live in that group. And if you're in that group, you would know that I'm in the process of moving. So stuff's a little bit messy over here. If you're watching the video version of this, I am in my full casual glory, giving you mid-move realness because my actual move is happening less than 48 hours from now, I think, right around there. I don't know. It's been a long few days. So I really wanted to make sure that we got to talk to Sheetal before my move and get this episode up for you guys before the solstice, because she's going to be telling us about the summer solstice energy, which is often a really big celebration for a lot of us. It's different than the spring. This is the summer. And there's just so much information. I won't even like try to reiterate any of it for you. But if you're into understanding what's coming up next and how those themes might look for you, or what areas of your life they might be highlighted in, some questions to be doing that introspective personal development, and then how to get yourself prepared and ready, like even some heads up around the beginning of the school year and what to expect, some things that might just look a little different than we anticipated, and then setting ourselves up, as we move into the later part of the year of getting ready for potentially a big pivot is spoiler alert there, I guess. So get excited for this episode. Thank you for being here as always. I hope that you know that I really value doing this work and this podcast, and that's why I really wanted to just get this episode up and get to talk to Sheetal. I'm always so grateful for her time and her wisdom. I hope you will enjoy this episode. And without further ado, I am going to just jump right into it. So buckle up. And if you are not driving or walking or working out, get a pen and paper, because you're going to want to take some notes. I'm actually going to listen back through this episode and take some notes about the dates and time frames and themes and questions like we were talking about. So without further ado, here is my friend and colleague, Sheetal Story. Welcome back to the Spirit Speakeasy. I'm so excited. Today we have our first return guest. You might remember her from, it was episode 13 that released on March 6th, Sheetal Story. If you want to hear her whole background of how she got into this work and all about her mediumship and her astrological abilities, and make sure you check out that episode. But Sheetal is back with us today by popular demand, I must say, to give us the astrology report for the second half of the year. Oh my gosh, can you believe it? Welcome, Sheetal Story.
I'm so honored to be your first returning guest.
So
oh my gosh, I just adore you. And to be asked back was such a thrill. And then to time it out with regards to the summer solstice was perfect. Like, divine design, I have to say.
For sure. And I feel like there's always so much, with astrology to use as a little bit of a guide map or a heads up or what to try to prepare for. So I can't believe the year's almost halfway
I know.
It's nuts.
And you're so right with, how we can always look to the astrology to understand what is happening. And we were
Yeah.
just talking about the glitches I'm getting on today, where
Yes.
your password had to reset. And then I double booked myself. There was a miscommunication. And it was just, it's Uranus in the sky, which is sort of the applying your individuality, really the change maker, shaking things up that's kind of keeping you stuck, doesn't like routine. And then Mercury, which is the messenger god, it's about communication, thought processing, tech, anything that requires us to communicate with each other. So
It is
technology.
strong. Like whatever is
It's
happening, it's like I was just telling you, I'm moving, and it happened much faster and much, which is kind of both of those energies. That Mercury, I know, is sometimes also travel or
Yep,
movement,
that's
and so
correct.
it's like it was much quicker than I expected, and things are, it's just bananas, and everything feels very messy, but like it's moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think it's a time like Mercury does rule travel and moving. So that's I would just say label all your boxes and make
Yes.
sure that
Like if
you
you
are
could see this whole
communicating.
side of the room, you would.
Well, have a
Yes.
checklist, really double check. Like I created a logo last night and I was so excited, or yesterday, I was so excited to create a logo for this new endeavor that I'm undertaking. And I loved it. I showed my husband and I posted a little teaser on social media. And my girlfriend messaged me this morning. She goes, "Did you intend for this spelling mistake? Like, is
Oh
it supposed to be
no.
something?" And I spelled community, CUMMUNITY. And I was
Very
like,
small
no,
typo.
that is not that is not the kind of community we are starting up. I don't
Oh
know
my
what that means.
goodness.
And I didn't catch it like for 2 days. Anyway, so this is this trickster energy with Mercury and Uranus playing in the sky. And
How
good
long is this
news,
happening,
it's going
Sheetal?
to be
Like,
over by
how
it's going to
much
be over
more?
by summer solstice. Like they're
Okay.
moving apart now. So
Okay.
it is in effectly, it's we call it separating in astrology. So it is going to get less and less. But for those of us who have a lot of Virgo, Gemini, or earth signs in our chart, we will feel it deeply. And at Virgo, so Mercury rules me. So it's been very challenging. And I think when I see the astrology, I understand that this is not forever. And
Yeah.
this means I need to slow down and really pay attention to the details. Because even when I looked at the logo, I swear to you, I looked at the logo so many times and I was like, okay, is all the spelling right? It looked like an O to me. And
Oh
then
my goodness.
how Monday morning it can look different, I don't even know.
I
I
just
don't
feel
know.
like that's kind of the way it is right now. And to your point, I really have been, I know this energy very well. So I do I have so many sticky notes happening and so much like double checking and double dotting and crossing. And yeah, it's, I'm glad to hear
Yes.
that it will be shifting. I mean, for me, that's one of
Mm-hmm.
the most positive things with astrology. Sometimes I know it can feel overwhelming to people just because there's so much going on, but
Yes.
on the other side of that coin, I guess it's like, yes, there's so much going on all the time and it's always cycling through. So if you don't like this phase, just hang
wait.
on. Yeah.
It's
Something
like
else
the
is
weather.
coming.
It's just like the weather. You don't like the weather, just hold on. It's going to change.
Exactly.
And it is. It's like the weather in that it's telling you the energy that's presenting, and how you use it is really up to you. So in this, trickster energy, it's a great time for me to slow down and I think for all of us, when I'm in creative mode right now in my cycles, and I'm feeling so excited about creative endeavors and meditations and all the things, and I'm pumping out lots of information and lots of content, and I'm not necessarily, really being detail oriented with that. So I need to work on the details. But such is the nature of sort of where we're at right now. So there's some really big astrological things for the second half of this year, and that's what we sort of wanted to talk about today.
Yeah.
So there's some
I'm so
dates that you're
excited
gonna
to
want to.
know
So
about
for your
this.
listeners, yes, you're gonna want to have a pen and paper handy, and put some of these dates on your calendar so that you can be forewarned is to be formed. My astrology teacher used to say, and I
Yes.
love
And if
that.
you're if you're driving or exercising or walking or doing whatever you do when you listen to us, you can, I'm sure, find all of this on Sheetal's platforms, as well as like you could just listen back later when you're not driving.
That's right. I was just going to say,
note.
listen to this again and make notes, and then leave a review of how amazing Joy is, because she is awesome. So yes. So as we know right now, we are recording this at the beginning of June, and we have this energy which is about to sort of shift right now. So June 11th, so it's coming up. So depending on when this airs, that's when Pluto is going to move back into Capricorn. And Pluto is a very slow outer planet, and he doesn't move signs very often, actually every 20 years or so. So he's kind of in this, it's a long transit, and he is the planet of evolution, death, destruction, transformation, right? So the ending of things, Pluto, travel the underworld. So this glimpse we had for a short time between March 23rd and June 11th of Aquarius, that was kind of this glimpse into the next 20 years, but he's not going to move fully into Aquarius until 2024. So he's going to move in and out. And so now he's moved back into Capricorn. And this is going to bring up the energy, especially for the US, because of where it sits in the US chart, of revolution and in change. And there's quite a few things coming up down there. So
many things are happening. Yes, we got to buckle up, I guess.
Yes. And well, I think it's more so, yes, I mean, for sure. There's a lot of the old guard, what's coming up now. We got a glimpse into the future, which is Aquarius, of how it can be humanity coming together. I think we're seeing that a lot with, with regards to pride, with regards to trans movement, things like that. And of course, June is Pride Month. So that's really quite interesting, the timing of it all.
I have if you guys are watching the video, you can see I have my official pose. I don't know if you guys watched this show. It's an amazing show on, I think Showtime might have had it. I could be totally wrong about that. Maybe it was HBO. But it is an amazing drag queen show. So
what's the show?
It's called Pose, P-O-S-E.
Oh, no, I haven't heard of it.
The main character in full beauty.
I love that.
So
my son is trans.
Happy Pride Month. Oh, that's amazing.
Happy Pride. Yes, happy Pride. Very close to my heart.
Well, so it's interesting because with the 7 year too, this is this change and revolution, and that old paradigm slipping away, and the new, you and I have talked about this before, but I kind of love this new generation. I think that they are change makers,
Absolutely. It's in their charts. I mean, they just have these aspects in their charts where they are so much more sensitive. They're going through, evolutionary kind of our psychological grow up points faster than we ever did. They're growing up with technology, with an awareness around the world and awareness about themselves that frankly, I'm like shocked that they're having these thoughts at this time of their life. And of course it makes sense because they're coming in to accelerate evolution, right? They are coming in to actually be the bridging gap between now and the age of Aquarius. So there's lots to be done.
Next phase we're moving into, right?
That's right. So this Pluto movement is going to sort of take us down that road. And what we're going to notice is all of this sort of patriarchal old systems, that are kind of really anti-woman in many ways. It's going to be dredged to the surface for us to see it, to heal it, right? But it needs to be flushed to the surface or else we can't change it. So that is going to be the challenge, I think, for those of us who are progressive and see this beautiful future. And it's going to be really challenging for those who want to keep the old the way it is because they benefit from that. So Pluto will be really illuminating the ways that we're holding on to the past and holding on to old structures that really aren't serving us anymore. So
it will be so interesting, especially, I mean, like you mentioned, in the US, we have a lot of social justice change issues that are needing to be addressed, but we also have political elections coming up for the presidency in about a year. So that'll be just something to kind of like, for those listening, just to kind of keep an eye on with what Sheetal is talking about for this next bit, revolution and change. And people, maybe we've talked about this before in some of my groups, like digging their heels in on the old way a little bit, kicking and screaming, but perhaps not to the extent that it has been in past times. Am I understanding that right?
It's absolutely true. And Capricorn is the sign of sort of the divine father, or like the fatherly figure, the master, whereas Cancer is the divine feminine, or, you know, divine mother. And so with this divine father, you know, figure, I keep getting reminded of the forefathers, or the founding fathers,
Oh, interesting.
which,
Yeah.
you know, it's not what they knew at the time. They were considered progressive, but yet they were not so progressive in the light of
So
some of the
true.
things that are coming, you know, to the forefront for them. And yet they're still being quoted, you know, in US media, of like, the founding fathers wouldn't have wanted it this way. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
they wouldn't, because they didn't know any better. They were not progressive, like, but they were progressive for their times, right? But
Right. Yeah.
I think, you know, I often think if these founding fathers were alive today, they would be very different men, because they were so progressive, right?
Right.
So I think this is the time of the progressive man, and you know, those that are supporting the divine woman as well. So it'll
I
be
think that's
interesting
exciting too.
to see. Yes, it'll be exciting, but change has to be kind of unearthed before that can
Yeah.
be. So we'll be witness to that, holding the, you know, the light for that, and reminding people that we're going through this with love, right, and compassion.
Yeah.
Judgment is not going to change anything. It's going to create more division, and love and
It's a good
compassion
point.
brings people together. So that brings me to a summer solstice, which happens on June 21st. And we sort of divide the year into quarters, if you will. So the two big ones are summer solstice and winter solstice, where the sun moves into Cancer on the 21st of June, and then we'll move into Capricorn on December 21st. So that's kind of the 6-month kind of session cycles, if you will. And then, of course, in between, we have the spring equinox and the fall equinox. So
Yeah.
they're not as celebrated, because they're really kind of equal day, equal night. So it's sort of this opportunity to find quality and balance. But the sun is really celebrated on solstice, summer solstice,
Yeah.
right? It's the longest day of the year. And this year it's quite interesting, and it's going to be a theme that's going to carry until winter solstice, that's why I wanted to bring it up, is that the sun moving into Cancer is really that kind of nurturing home, family. It's kind of the time of really being nurtured and finding support with others, and being in connection with people that fill you with joy and fill you with safety. And it's a time usually where we just want to be more nurtured, I would say, you know, more,
Yeah.
you know, friendly, more nurtured, but also boundaries, because water and
Oh, that's a
Cancer,
good point. Yeah.
right? Very nurturing and very empathic, very sensitive, intuitive time. But at the time, so moon rules Cancer. And at the time of the solstice, the moon is in Leo and squaring Jupiter. So what this means is that we're going to be extremely sensitive and very prone to wanting to, you know, please others, or sensitive and aware of others, of other people's feelings, and wanting to do more and be more. And it's also conjunct Venus, which are relationships. So we have this kind of wanting to be in our relationships, fulfilling relationships. We want to be surrounded by fulfilling relationships. And
Yeah.
what does that mean for you?
So
Does
is
that mean
this with the solstice itself, and with this theme through the next 6 months, we're going to kind of be focusing on what
your
home means to us,
relationships?
what relationships mean to us,
Yes.
what's working and what's not working, maybe where we are maybe too watery, or maybe too, have turned into ice and are too solid, and just kind of a self-evaluation.
Yeah, I think it's the real question that's going to flush this season's theme to the surface is, how do you connect with others? And what
Oh,
does
I like
connecting
that.
with others fulfill for you?
Oh, I like
Right?
that. And I think that's such an important question, because it looks so differently for all of us and means different things. Some people are most thriving when they have large groups of friends, and other people quite the opposite. So I love
Mm-hmm.
that question. So make a note of that question and kind of hold it for the next 6 months or so, just to be pondering, right?
Mm-hmm. And you can even take a relationship inventory of what friends really fill you up. Like, I think what I started to notice, especially now I'm 45, and in this time and season of my life, the friends and people I hang out with fill my soul. I don't go away thinking, oh, I didn't do that right, or oh, I could have said that differently, or oh man, I feel so uncomfortable around these people. Like, I just feel so myself. You walk into a room and they're like, oh my gosh, I love your earrings, and I love just like, what is this
Yeah.
wonderfulness? And I don't think I really had those kinds of friendships until now, until the last few years, really, because I had to become okay and confident in myself, because the outer is always reflecting the inner, right?
Yeah. That's so true.
So that is going to be highlighted big time, because on July 17th, we now have the nodes of the moon moving into Aries and Libra. So this happens once every 18 months. So it doesn't happen very often. And the nodes of the moon in astrology, denote our karmic destiny, the north node, and our karmic past, which is the south node. Really, it's where are we heading as a society, and what are we letting go of as a society? Where do we want to create our future, and what do we need to release now to move more into that future? So the nodes of the moon in the last 18 months have been in Taurus and Scorpio. And so Taurus being money, the banking system, cryptocurrency, the resources of the world, the environment, Mother Nature. So, lots about global warming and forest fires and stuff, which have been really big up here. And I know down there too, with flooding and all that. And then the Scorpio side of the south node, which is release, when the nodes went into Scorpio Taurus, that's when the Me Too movement really picked up. Scorpio is about sexuality and taboo subjects and things we don't talk about. So it's really flushed to the surface now, sexual improprieties in Hollywood and things that we don't talk about, and, trying to keep predators safe because they hold power. Like all of that. I mean, we just saw, Donald Trump being persecuted for a crime that was done in like the 70s or 80s, but I think lawsuit wise, not actual criminal, because the statute ran out. Right. So even that being fleshed out and brought to light as someone who is so powerful, that would have been that Scorpio Taurus node kind of coming to the surface, like almost finally a sort of a finishing of that, and now moving into this Aries Libra. And so Aries Libra
really is.
It's so interesting when you start to correlate. There's a branch of astrology called mundane astrology that looks at the correlation of the astrological effects with political movements and things that are happening in the world. So it's quite fascinating. I personally really love that branch of astrology as well, as you can tell.
I love it too. It's so interesting.
It is so interesting. And it's you can't not see the correlations. Like, it's not like you're trying to make it fit. Like, it's very obviously so. So with this Aries Libra nodes moving in July 17th.
Like, let's see, because I know Libra's about balance and textile, like affection and what feels good and things being fair. And I know Aries likes to light stuff on fire. So what is going to happen to us?
And Aries is more than fire. It's the first sign of the zodiac, right?
Aries can get very big and very serious and very,
fiery. You're right.
Fiery, yeah.
It's the first sign of the zodiac. So think of like the spark of life that initiates, right? It's the initiator of ideas and passion. Like, they're the leaders. They're the ones that are going first to then create the way. And then Taurus kind of lays down the foundation, right? So Aries has to be fiery. It has to be like, this is the way we're going to do it, right? And if you know an Aries, I know many Aries, they're not interested in your opinion.
they have a lot of opinions.
They have a passion. They have a passion. They have a purpose. They have a direction, and they have a goal to get done. Their mission is so front and center that they're not really thinking about your feelings. I always say within Aries, either you're on the bus or you're under the bus. It's not,
that's a good way to say it,
right? And it's not meant to be an insult. It's really about, that's how passionate they are and driven with their idea in mind, right? So it's not a bad thing to have, but anything too loud, we need moderation. So the opposite is Libra, which brings balance and harmony in relationships. And the plight of every Libra is to not give up so much of themselves to appease and to avoid conflict. Because that's one of the things I notice with all the Libras in my life. Some of my closest friends are Libras, and they're so beautiful, ruled by Venus. They are just these goddesses and handsome misters as well. And they have this propensity to try to give and give and give to avoid conflict, to avoid a fight. So, it's always lovely to be in a relationship with a Libra, because they'll be like, we'll do what you want. We'll do what you want, and you've got to be very cognizant in your relationship with a Libra of like, what do you want? And how do we come together to do this? So it's the Libra Aries axis is, how can we be in charge of our destiny, but also have relationships that nurture and complete us in ways, because we're not meant to do it by ourselves. And we're certainly not meant to people please and give up everything so that we can be in relationships. So you'll see here's
Well,
that theme coming up again,
I was
right?
going to say, it makes so much sense if we're supposed to be focusing on our connections and our bonds and our significant relationships. And
So true. And it's going to be a big focus, but what's going to be the focus is, are you following your purpose? Are you following your drive and your thing, whatever it is that your soul came in here to make manifest into the world?
yeah.
Or are you sacrificing so much to make everyone happy, to keep yourself small so that you don't rock the boat, so to speak? So we're going to see that being released, and more so of that kind of coming to light, where people have just been giving and giving and giving until it
Yeah.
hurts,
Well, and I think
really.
we see that so strongly with empaths and sensitives and psychics and mediums and astrologers and
Mhm.
all of our little segment
So
of the
true.
world. So anyone who's sensitive or um, identifies as empathic that's listening, like, hey, this is you. Pay
Mhm.
attention. Are you? What's the question then? I love the way you give a question to kind of ponder with this. Are you showing up, in your full as your full complete self, or are you giving yourself away? What's the best way you think to kind of evaluate that over time?
I would say a good question would be like, how am I shining my light? And where do I hide or keep myself small because I'm scared to offend, or I'm scared of judgment, or, what will people think? A big one that comes up around this, especially with Uranus and Taurus, is about money, right? It's like money trauma. Where do you think, if I become too big, who will think that I'm too much or
Oh,
greedy,
interesting.
or I'm not a good person anymore? And so we keep ourselves kind of, not even, I would say deliberately, but maybe subconsciously.
Yeah.
So we're not like that next door neighbor that mom and dad used to make fun of because he had this big yacht and boat and whatever, like too extravagant. But really it was a wound that your parents had that then reflected to you, which now you've taken on as your identity. So,
Wow.
and Aries is identity. Like, who are you? What do you call yourself? How do you identify in the world?
That's so
So there's going to be
interesting.
a
Yeah. So
lot of
how we're
identity
identifying
shifts.
in our relationships, how we're showing up in the world around us, how we're showing up or participating in community. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of it's kind of a lot of third chakra, like us in the world
Ah,
energy.
yes.
you know?
Yeah, and I mean Aries is really that whole, like I said, that spark of life. So you can even say maybe it's primary color is red, right? It really loves the color red. So will start to see fashion even going in that direction. So
Ooh,
there's all.
interesting.
I took a seminar once where they were talking about the fashion trends and music trends as it changes as the nodes of the moon go into these
Wow.
18-month cycles. And so I think we're going to see more fire, more red, more boldness, in music. I think maybe heavy metal might come back again as well, right? That fiery
I love
rock,
it.
like, come back again, because there hasn't been really a revival of that. We haven't seen that in music. It's been quite soft. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. So I sort of wrote here, toxic individuality. So I can do it all myself, right? That's
Okay.
one of the,
Yeah.
possibilities here. Leaders and self-esteem, and letting go of people pleasing. So again, coming back to that, Cancer theme as well. So I think these are going to be some traits that are going to carry on. And here's some more things that are going to really help that along, because everything is happening for an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
To
Always.
bring this healing for everyone and bring it to the surface. And so our next big astrological event is going to be July 22nd to September 3rd, and
Okay.
that's Venus going retrograde in Leo.
Okay.
So
That's an interesting Venus in Leo, but retrograde. Okay.
right. So what
Like
do you
all
know
the
about
ugly boils
Leo?
are going to come out. Is that what's going to happen? What
Oh,
do we need
yes,
to know?
all the things with beauty. So, Venus is what we love and value, our connection with money, relationships, love, aesthetic is Venus. And Leo is a sign, it is J-Lo. Think of Jennifer Lopez, right?
Yeah.
She is a quintessential Leo, like, likes to be on stage, likes to be seen. And really, they have a voice, something that's unique to them in this lifetime that they're meant to shine their light in, because the opposite of Leo is Aquarius. So we take our gifts and talents, we figure out who we are and what's our special sauce that we came here to share with the world. And then we use that in Aquarius to then help humanity rise and help us to be there for each other, and using that gift for the benefit of all, not just for our own benefit. So Leo likes to be acknowledged, right?
Yeah.
It's grand, it's dramatic, it loves to be seen. I'm a Venus Leo, so I like the big earrings, the big hair.
Okay,
usually my hair is way bigger than today. So it's that kind of dramatic as well. They're very good storytellers. If you know a Leo, they tend to be actors and like the spotlight or performers in some way. And the surest way, the fastest way to anger a Leo is to not appreciate them and tell them, boss them around, tell them what to do. Try that. That's never going to go well. Or
ignore
for you.
them. That also
ignore them.
Does not work.
Yes,
with your Leo friends. Okay.
Well said. Yes, not acknowledging their contribution. That's also like a huge one.
Yeah.
Right. So when Venus is retrograde, it means now our relationships, what we want, our beauty and aesthetic, our connection to money is now being internalized. So retrograde just means that the planet is going slower than the Earth now. So it's just mathematically going slower than the Earth. So if you were to look at Venus in the sky, it just looks like it's going backwards, but it's not, because we are just going faster than it.
Yeah.
So when it's in that kind of relationship to the Earth, we're now internalized. It's sort of like, what do we really want? What do we want to be acknowledged for? What is our special talent? Now we're coming back to our special contribution.
I was going to say, it seems like it even further dialing in of that, what are you, who is your soul wanting to be in this lifetime feeling? Oh, so interesting.
Exactly right. Right. And we're humans, so we need to go slow. Right?
Well,
like
a lot slower than we often like. I can speak for myself on that.
Well, but even just in terms of change, right? Like, why can't we just accept this is our leadership, this is my thing, and I got to go out and do it? And then your grandpa comes over for dinner, and they're like, "Well, that girl out there on the YouTubes trying to do all the things," and you're like, "I want to be on YouTube," and now you can't say anything because now you feel like I'm going to anger grandpa. When grandpa gets mad, then mom gets mad. So it's a dynamic. That's relationships are dynamic. It's not simple. And so we need time to traverse this energy and internalize it and start to see where in our world do we hold back? Where in our world are we not feeling appreciated? So July 22nd to September 3rd, we're definitely going to be very sensitive to not being appreciated, to not being acknowledged, not being seen, because a Leo likes to be seen. Yeah. And Leos are quite quiet by nature. I mean, they tend to be they wait to be acknowledged, right? They wait for the invitation almost. And then they're like, yes, here I am. But they'll show up looking fabulous. And then you're like, hi. And then, can I talk to you? And they're like, yes. And let me tell you all the things, right? So one of my really good friends is a Leo. And gosh, she just has fashion sense for days. Like, they just know nice things. They know a good party. They know how to eat great. They know, eat great, meaning they know nice foods that are high in calories and high in taste, right? So one of the side effects to this retrograde can also be that you're looking over what makes you feel good. What are you actually medicating with, perhaps, and how are you dealing with money? If you're using money to medicate, shopping or spending on food or spending outside your means, this Venus retrograde is going to bring that for you to see.
Well, and then I think it's part of this for me springs up as looking from an honest perspective at the boundaries that maybe we haven't set to receive that acknowledgement, for example. You know what I mean? Because it's like, think of someone who maybe like isn't receiving the acknowledgement that they want, but they also haven't set any form of boundary or stated any form of like need. So that'll be a fine tuning, I'm sure, for all of us in different areas to work on with what boundaries have we set, what have we requested, or what do we require, what do we want.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a good time to put on a boundary workshop. By the way, I just got that download for you. If that's what you want to do. If that's what you want to do. But yes, you're exactly right. I mean, you have to see it to heal it. You have to feel it to heal it. And what you resist persists. So that's all going to come up around that time for sure. And it's over the summer. So it's a little bit, for those who kind of take more time off in the summer and stuff too, that might be a bit of a reprieve, because hard to go through that when you're working alongside people 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, that can be also part of it. But again, if that comes up at work then that's something for you that you need to now look back and go, why do I feel like this? Where did this start in
Right.
my life? Right? Why can't I ask for what I want? Because I was told
Yeah.
that I'm too much when I do. Okay, is that true for me now? How do I start to
Yes.
heal that? And how you start to heal it is by asking for small things. Start small
Yeah.
and build evidence for
I
yourself.
think your process and mine is very similar. I feel like I'm like, yeah, this is exactly how we do it. Yeah,
Yes,
this
that's
is
why
how
I
you do
love you.
it.
We are very same.
I
Very
like it.
same. The next major transit is going to be July 23rd, and it's going to be around that in that week, and it's going to
I
be
was gonna say
Pluto
these are all
squared
very
Moon.
like close together here.
Very close together. They're going to get further apart. But this one is just kind of, it's going to last for probably about 2 or 3 weeks, and it's Pluto square the nodes. So
Okay.
that Pluto, remember, death, rebirth, and transformation,
Yeah.
revolution. And then the nodes, now the node has gone into 29 degree of Aries, and Pluto is at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So
Oh,
29
interesting.
degrees is considered a critical degree in astrology. It really amplifies all the harder aspects of that sign, or
Yeah.
more
Well, because the
challenging
pi is the
aspects.
30 degrees, right? So
That's
that
right.
means we're within 1 degree. So it's like intensity, right?
Well,
Is
this
that?
is a square. It's 90-degree
Oh
angle,
my
and
gosh,
it's
because it's
they're
all.
pulling against each other. So
Uh,
it is a crisis, a challenge, difficult to integrate. So it'll be interesting during that week to see, or maybe even that sort of, because it's applying and then exact on the 23rd of July and then separating. That can mean destabilizing of sort of world powers, a
interesting.
possible sort of ignition of war. Like we're seeing more, tensions growing with China and with Russia with regards to the waters around China and
Yeah.
Thailand and Taiwan and all the things. So we're just finding, not Thailand, Taiwan, and Russia and Ukraine. So there's a few kind of hot spots, if you will, around the world that are already starting to simmer a bit, and we're starting to
Yeah.
see steam coming, especially from China and the US. Um,
Yeah.
experience, and even in Canada, there's been foreign interference with our MPs in government being threatened by
Okay.
Chinese, people who are working here on behalf of China. So there's been a lot of people being deported, and this coming to light, and the prime
Wow.
minister is being held to account on what he knew and why he didn't do anything to protect these members of parliament. So
Wow.
there's tensions that are rising around the world. Like it takes more than just two people to start a world war. I don't think this will be a world war. I think we really don't have the appetite for it. We want more
Right.
diplomacy, and there's so many players willing to step in to be intermediaries and talk. So there might be some sort of spark. I really hope that we go through that week with nothing happening. I would be so happy if nothing happens during that week, but
Well,
it's a time of major tension for the
and it's a
world.
shake up for change too, could be.
That's correct.
So,
That's exactly
yeah.
right. I mean, that's what words are, is really sort of this like
Yeah.
disagreement of, possible philosophies, or, trying to grab land or whatever it is. And I think we're just coming through this evolution of like, but is it worth all the lives that we're going to lose? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't end all the money. So, but war can also be really good for the economy and for money. There are players that win in war. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But it's definitely with regards to breaking up the old guard, Capricorn, and then trying to start something new, but Aries is also the god of war. So
Yeah.
that's why this is a typical marker for war.
Well,
But
so
hopefully it
does
doesn't.
the Libra side rise up and demand justice and fairness and equality? Is that part of the push pull that's going to happen in there?
Well, it's the South Node, so it's releasing
Oh,
the
so
ways that we've
it's
been complacent and
okay.
trying to accommodate and trying to appease. So it's not really.
So just going along is maybe not going to be good enough anymore. Might be
No. Yeah, I
the
think it's going
highlight.
to add to the frustration of, look at all the things that we've been doing to try to help. Look at all the ways that we've been conceding and trying to give you another chance. And you know what? We
Interesting.
just had it. So it could lead to that. And then on the micro level, we can also feel kind of churned up during this time and ticked
Yeah.
off, that again, with this Venus retrograde at the same time in
It's a
Leo.
lot. That's what I mean. And as you're saying it, it even sounds like for in some situations it could feel like a last straw kind of a time
Which
zone.
again, when you think about it, that might be you're so right. And I love the way you interpret this. You're so good at this, is that it could be the last straw for a relationship ending because
Yeah.
it had to. And you've been holding on because you're scared you're going to anger someone, or it's going to ruin your friend group or whatever,
Yeah.
add on the excuse. And this is going to be like, you can't hold your tongue anymore. It's
Yeah,
gonna
like a
come
last
out.
straw for not getting to be yourself, not getting to express your
Yes.
truth of who you are, what you came here
Yes.
to be.
Exactly right.
So get
As I
ready to
was
be you, everyone. Get
as
excited.
I was wanting to leave my previous job, I was working with. It's so interesting, the flags of the universe, send you when change is coming, right? And I had this great job, been there for 12 years, had amazing bosses, it felt like a family. And then everyone in my accounts, all the people that I had relationships left, and then I got assigned a new boss that was absolutely horrible. And there was just so many things that were starting. They didn't give me the extra weeks of holidays that they had promised me when I first started, and just a lot of things. I'm like, is it time to leave? Is it time to leave?
Yeah.
And I was in a show, and my horrible boss, came up and did the exact opposite of what I asked him to do, and I lost it in the middle of the show. And I started yelling at him. It was almost like it is like I couldn't stop myself, Joy. And it's not like me, but I couldn't stop. I just like all of this stuff. This is a Pluto square the node moment in my life where it just came to the surface, and I could feel myself step out of my body, and it was just like yelling at him. And he's like, lower your voice. I'm like, don't tell me what to do. And, just like, calm down. Like, don't tell me to calm down. So, yeah, I got written up, but it was interesting because at that time, 4 of the people in neighboring booths could hear all of it, and they came over and they're like, he's such a jerk. I'm so glad you gave it to him.
Wow. So mid to late July. Maybe think before you
go on a holiday.
Yeah. Take a trip.
Take deep breaths. Float in the pool. Really, self-care is a must during that July 23rd week. Really paying attention to your triggers, to healing. Maybe a good time. Pluto rules therapy. So dredging up all this. So good time to have therapy and really kind of deal with the skeletons in your own closet, because this is bringing up revolution to move into your future. Pluto is removing blocks and barriers to your future here. So,
and
which, the evolution
sometimes is heavy lifting, but
it is. It can be. So. Yeah, absolutely. Well said again. So then August 23rd to September 15th. For me, this feels like personally the roughest part of the year.
Okay.
Because it's a Mercury retrograde in my own sign. So it's going to affect everyone because Mercury rules Virgo. And Virgo likes details, it likes to be organized, and it likes to have things a certain way. So that's the time when we're going back to school. Kids are going back to school. We're getting back onto routines for September. And what I'll say to you is your routines for September isn't going to be your routines for September.
Okay.
You'll be planning ahead, getting school supplies, getting lunch boxes, and then something's going to happen to like shift all of that in some way. So what I'll say is really pack a lot of patience for October 23rd to September 15th, and really flexibility. Really, because Virgo is a mutable sign, so it flows with crisis and change, and really try to channel that as much as possible during this time of just flowing with change, because this retrograde is meant for you to slow down. So and of course, September is a time where we tend to speed up from slowing down all summer. And it's also a time to really review, reassess, and realign with the structures of your life, because Virgo rules the 6th house of daily routines, health habits, and the ways that we move through life in a practical, logical way, being of support to the people around us. So, and of service, right? Who are Virgos of service. So we're going to be tasked now with, what are your beliefs and thoughts around being of service? And what are your thoughts and beliefs around your daily routines? And the health that you are actually choosing versus what you want, right? Because they're not always the same thing.
Well, and on a bigger scale, for me, this kind of sticks out as something I've been looking at a lot lately, which is like performative versus, you know what I mean, where we're actually doing the work, or are we just talking about doing the work? And I think this is kind of one of those areas this year that's going to be where the old way is maybe not good enough anymore. Are you just talking about the work? Are you doing the work? Are you, showing up for things, or are you not? Kind of for our own evaluation,
That's exactly right. And so there's definitely going to be this time where communication is going to slow down, travel is going to slow down too. So I think we're going to have a bit of some airline issues and communication issues and maybe tech glitches around that time too. So if you're
Okay.
traveling between August 23rd, right before you come back to school sort of thing, really like don't take carry-on or don't check your bags if you can,
Yeah.
bring carry-on and pack smart.
Yeah.
So that way your bags don't get lost. That's another thing. And
Don't sleep on those sales back to school the beginning of August. Get on there early
yes,
so you
early.
because maybe
Yes.
shipments might be delayed. It could be all kinds of
Yes.
things.
That's exactly right, because it rules travel, it rules shipping, any kind of communication
Delays.
or delays. Yes, 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 to all of that. Absolutely. So really double checking those emails and planning really, earlier in August, I would say, rather than September 15th.
And so mid August to mid September, just a little heads up to be ready to go with the flow on some unexpected situations.
Exactly right.
Maybe.
And if you're normally organized and have everything ready to go for, school, then tack on an extra month in advance. So start actually planning in July to have everything ready, because there is going to be delays. Something's going to happen. Virgo.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. This has been a year. Mercury likes to go retrograde in sort of certain elements every year. So this year it's earth signs. And when I saw that, I was like, oh gosh, it's coming for me. This Virgo Mercury retrograde is going to be rough, and it's rough for everyone. It was retrograde in Gemini last year, and that was huge communication. It rules Gemini. So there was huge communication issues and stuff last year. So very interesting.
For anyone out there who's been like on their mind to back up any like data you have,
yes,
computer storage, like photos that you might want to back it up.
Absolutely right. Back it up in July. Don't wait till August. Right now.
In June. Do it just while
do
it's
it right
fresh.
Now.
Back everything up.
Well said, Joy. Yes, right now, do it. And then the next two that caught my eye was actually October 14th and October 25th. We have eclipses on those days, and eclipses they're evolutionary jump points on our planet. So it's where the new moon eclipse is in Libra on October 14th. And eclipses mean in astrology is when a new moon or full moon happens near the nodes of the moon. So of course the nodes are moving now into Aries Libra. And as it's moving into Aries Libra, now the pair of eclipses will be in that Aries Libra axis. So we've got that new moon eclipse in Libra on October 14th. And then October 28th, we have the full moon eclipse, but this time in Taurus, not Aries, because it's at the 5th degree of Taurus. So it's just moving out of, so it's close enough to be considered an eclipse in astrology, but it's not in Aries. So it's a bit more complicated than what I'll get into. But why it's important is it's Venus ruled. Both those signs are Venus ruled. So there's that Venus energy again, right? And Venus won't be in Leo at this point in time, but that Venus energy again is bringing our awareness to relationships, to what we love and value, to our relationship with money, and our relationship with our own beauty and the way we feel about ourselves, self-esteem.
Interesting. So there's these like focus points on certain energies, it seems like, through this next 6 months too.
You can sort of see the thread
up again.
Right? You can see the thread or the through line, of this energy of self-love and love and value and your relationships and how you feel in relationships, and are they serving you, or are you serving them? Is it a reciprocal, kind of thing? And then the last one that really caught my eye as well is December 13th to January 1st. I'm going to blah, 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 blah. December 13th to January 1st. So we start off the new year with Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
And Mercury retrograde starts in Capricorn, so another earth sign, but then moves back into Sagittarius. And so next year, the retrogrades will be in fire signs. So not as bad. Yeah. It's going to slow down our fire momentum forward and our passions and our drives, but it's not going to be in earth signs, which is not as bad. But the start into Capricorn, again, that's around, it's going to go over Christmas. So again, any shipping for Christmas presents, any kind of travel over Christmas, any plans, really pack patience, pack a backup plan. If you're traveling, have your paper copies of everything. Don't rely on electronics to be there for you. pack an extra book so you can read when your plane's delayed.
Yeah.
Don't pack, checked baggage. Try to pack carry-on so your luggage might, go missing. You don't care because you have it checked with you, or you
Yeah.
have it on your carry-on. And it's interesting because as it moves into Sagittarius, it's going to make us rethink our plans for 2024. So if you do like a vision board, or you have like all these big plans for 2024, this retrograde is going to have you really not second guessing, but more so getting clear on what you really want and what drives your passion. Because Sagittarius is an optimistic, forward-thinking sign, looking into the future and visioning for this future that really uses your passion and your fire, right? Your drive.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing life according to your passion and what lights your soul on fire, this year is going to really bring up places where that's holding you back, where you're holding yourself back.
I think it's such a great point too that you bring up, to just do spend this next 6 months, this remainder of the year, just getting more clear with ourselves, what's important to us, what's not, what, even as you were saying with all the Venus transits, that some of it, as you mentioned, is our personal beauty and our personal health and how we take care of our physical body, and maybe things that we used to believe fit, or maybe they don't. And, it can be all across our relationship with ourselves. And if we're doing all that work this period, then maybe by the time we get to that pivot or refocus or rethink, for what we want to do going forward into 2024 that you were talking about, we'll just know ourselves so much more deeply. And maybe it won't feel like such a, I don't know, tower moment, such a like
tower.
The walls are crumbling moment, because you know yourself so well that it's just like, oh no, actually, I do want this and not this, or I do know that this is my true north type of a thing.
Yeah, I love that. And you're right. Like, change can be either self-directed or propelled, right?
Yeah.
So it can either be towards something that you want because you see the change and you want that, or it can be because of pain. And, pain is a big catalyst for change, but it is so hard. So I love, there's a Buddhist saying that the root of all suffering is attachment. So when you feel like you're suffering, what do you attach to? What's trying to leave your life that is presenting? And you're like, no, this is me. This is my identity, Aries. And it's not your identity anymore. And you brought that in from your parents, Libra, and it's time to let that go. Or you picked that up from an ex, or your relationship in high school. That doesn't belong to you anymore. You are more than the sum of your experiences. You get to decide who you are.
Well, and it's even, I talk about this, we just did this lesson in one of the programs that I teach, one of the foundational programs, just talking about, think about whenever each of us was in high school and what was the conversation around sexuality, personal or interrelational, what was acceptable in the community that you grew up in, or the time period, or on media. And some of us are still kind of hanging on to bits and remnants, using it as the standard, because previously there was a different standard, and now all of that's changing. So there are things that can fall away that we just, I think you said it earlier, that we just don't agree to anymore. It's just an old way. Maybe the systems that I grew up in did that doesn't resonate with me anymore. This is who I'm choosing to be. But we got to go through that little bit of process of coming to some of this, right?
I love the way you said that. And it's, Spirit's sort of showing me where you got here now with what you believed and what you thought was true. And as you reveal more of what is true for you now, and the truth comes to light about what these experiences were actually teaching you, there's going to be a redirect for many people, especially many people listening to this podcast, because it's feeling like it's okay to redirect because you didn't know what you know now, and you needed to get to this moment. So that's why you needed to have the people pleasing. That's why you needed to have the prover energy. That's why you needed to have these, relationships with money to get you to this moment, to then, hire this coach or be in this time or perfect place where you're like, oh my God, I just had an aha moment, and everything shifts, right? So you shift your perception, you shift your entire life, right? You can't unsee.
And it's such a big part of all this, just in this, I don't know why I keep, like, these themes for this year have stuck with me so much, because I keep seeing them rise up. And it's like, this is the other part of this 7 energy that we're completing this year, is like, what do we need to let fall away? And what are we bringing in to usher in that new. And then everyone who's sensitive to any degree, I mean, which is all of us, it's just whether we've kind of woken up to identify that way or
That's
not
right.
yet.
Yeah.
We are being called almost like a internal pull to that next phase, that higher thinking, that illumination, and then wanting our society to reflect that new way. So you can see how this really does stack all kind of like stairs of
Mm.
where we're headed, and it is playing out individually and collectively. I don't know, this stuff just fascinating. I'm such a nerd for this stuff, even though like I'm only into it in my personal work, not my public work, but it's just so fascinating.
Well, and it is, that's why I love astrology so much. It's such a wonderful tool for understanding yourself,
Yeah.
right? And then even understanding the people in your life. Like I remember when I was going for my certification, I would have the charts of my husband, myself, my kids, and every time, the teacher would say something, I'd be like, is it my chart? Is it my husband's chart? Like there's an aspect, and I'm trying to remember the degree. So if there's a degree of Cancer, that if you're born with a planet or something on that point, you will have bad teeth. Like it's
Oh, that's
almost
so
like
it's
at
so fascinating.
99%. And so
Yeah.
I'm looking, because one of my good friends has had nothing but problems with her teeth since we were kids. And I looked at her chart, and her son is at that degree. And I texted her, I'm like, you're going to have bad teeth for the rest of your life. She goes, tell me something I don't know. I'm like, it's in your astrology chart. Right. And it's funny because she's been struggling with her teeth for her whole life, but it's been such an interesting reflection of who she was. So her parents didn't do anything with her teeth because they didn't have the money. So they just pulled her teeth and kind of, this is a metaphor, so stay with me.
Yeah.
So they kind of did what they had to do to get by. And now as she's come into her own, and there's money and resources available to her, she's doing the work to expand out her jaw and make it right. And it is painful,
I
painful,
bet.
painful. But she's also going through therapy. There's other things in her life
Wow.
shifting. And so it's all paralleling. Like it's her mouth is a metaphor for her life. That
Yeah.
yeah, she was given these kind of crappy circumstances, but she gets to make it what she wants. So
Yeah.
it's not, you're not relegated to your chart. It's not like a cross that you bear. It's actually an opportunity in your path forward to your purpose. So I
Yes.
just
Oh
love it.
my gosh. It's like, I know some people get nervous about things like retrograde, and, we hear these things and we see these funky memes, and it's like, okay, not like that. It's the opposite. It's like not to be scared of them. It's why I love the way that you work and the things that you put out, because it's like just a heads up to like, hey, wouldn't you want to know if it was going to rain, you might take an umbrella or a
That's right.
poncho, or not. You might just wear shoes that aren't suede. Like, I don't know, whatever you want
or
to do about
or
it.
you
But
decide you don't want to listen to any of it, and then you're going to
yeah,
go out in the rainstorm and you're going to get wet, right?
exactly. But it's the
So
choices, right?
that's
It's like
right.
having a little bit of a heads up so you can just flex with the choices a little differently. That's kind of how I see it.
Exactly right.
I
Yeah,
love
I
that you
think
were saying that every astrologer that I know or friends that are into it do this, where it's like we kind of look at everyone else's chart we know. And I want to use that information that you just shared as a segue to talk about this exciting program that you are working on and designing. You kind of dropped a little bit that you're in creative mode. You're actually going to be starting to teach some astrology, which I'm
it's
very
been
excited about.
such an interesting journey, Joy.
Yeah.
I've
So everyone
been
listening can pull the charts of everyone they know and look at their
That's
teeth and
actually
their
a
funky
bonus
stuff
I'm giving
too.
in it, because
Yes.
it's so important to me. So I've been asked over the last few years, like at least 50 times, to like, when are you teaching? When are you teaching?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm not a teacher. I mean, not to say I'm not a teacher. I love training and teaching things, but I don't want to teach other astrologers. And someone said, I just want you to teach me how to understand my chart. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm in for that. Yes, I'm all in for that. And so my coach is like, well, why not do that then? You have so many people asking you, why not? But do it your way. And I was like, yes, there's that Aries Libra energy, right? Of like,
Yeah.
no, I've got to do it my way. So it's a 16-week class, and it's integrated. So meaning that you're going to look at your chart. So I give you your chart as part of the course. It's a 16-week course, and we go through the basics of your natal chart, together as a group. And then we're going to continue on for a few extra weeks. So it's actually sort of 12 to 13 weeks of instruction. But then each one, I want you to like find areas in your chart. What part does it, tell me about it? What is it like? And then I want you guys to pair up, and I want you to tell each other about it. So that way you're sharing about your chart and you're learning about it when you're doing it, because it can be so overwhelming when you learn a bunch of stuff and then you never apply it. And then you're looking at your chart and you're like, I don't understand what this is. I don't want that. So I've created this course. It's launching in September. I'm going to have a 3-day astrology challenge to help people understand their sun, moon, and rising sign in August. So if anyone wants to sign up for that, there will be a free link soon. It's just in the ideation stage. So I'm actually just getting the booklet created right now. There's many steps that kind of go into setting up these challenges, but I want to help people at the very least, if they feel like maybe they can't afford the program, or it's the time commitment's too much. It's going to be in the evening, so even people who are working can attend as well. And I really want to reach as many people as possible with this information and help them to learn their chart, their birth chart. And then they learn how to kind of read off their friends and family as well if they want. That's a bonus offering that I'm putting inside the program as well. So I'm excited actually to do it, because there was a time in my life when I'm like, oh, I don't know. And now I'm like,
I'll tell you, I really so firmly believe in this more apprenticeship or mentorship style teaching, because I feel like there's so many programs out there for all kinds of learning that are great to access on your own and read the information, but it's different, especially with something that is as complex and dialed in as astrology, to kind of look and then be able to ask you, or maybe two people that get partnered have something totally opposite and it's confusing, and then just having the guidance there, like being able to look at things with them, I think it's just invaluable, because it can feel, it's why, like I said, why I don't do it for part of my work. It's just overwhelming, the amount of information. And I do think that's what's daunting for a lot of people, is that it's so overwhelming, beyond what we can just read. I guess it's not magazines anymore. It's wherever we read those kind of things online, probably, right? Unless you all should be following Sheetal. I know several of you are already. So it's like, if you're not, I will link all of her socials below. Tell us, I know your website, Sheetal Story, and it's SHEETAL, and then story like it sounds, STORY.com. But I'll also put the link for that again. Is it the best place for people to check in with info about the course? This will probably come out around June 12th, so close soon. But when they're wanting to check out for it, is that the best place to go?
It's right now not published on there because we're working behind the scenes to kind of firm up some things, and we've been dabbling with AI as well, artificial intelligence. So that's been kind of interesting and intriguing, but a few things need to be tweaked with that. But I currently have, if you go through the link in my Instagram, there is a wait list to sign up for the astrology course. So the people on the wait list are actually going to get an extra special little bonus if they sign up. So I would say that would be the place to be if you are interested.
What's your Instagram? Remind me. Is it Story?
Sheetal Story.
Sheetal Story.
Sheetal Story. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll put the links as well. I'm so excited for you to be. I mean, I feel like you're such a natural teacher anyway. So this really is just the natural next thing for you to be wanting to talk about and share and help people. I feel like that's the best of teaching, is when it, when it feels like just helping people do what they're already wanting to start stepping into, it's just.
Yeah. And making it easy, right? Because there's so much to know with astrology. So to make it easy and applicable, and then have them, talk to each other, and then have this environment where we're all getting to, and not only answer questions, but getting to practice the material. So it's not just sitting on a shelf. That was so important to me. So
one of the best things is it's like, it's so immediately valid, because like we all know what's true about us. So you can look at, like the teeth thing. That girl knew she had
bad teeth
trouble. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the first time I had like a deep astrology done, they were like, oh, you have a weakness in your wrists. And I was like, I totally do. I've sprained my wrists like both my pregnancies trying to push off of them, and a million years ago. But it's just amazing to me, the depth of like specific and unusual details that are not general. You know what I mean? So yeah, anyone who's interested in astrology, which I think is so many people, because I get asked about it a ton. I'm so excited for your program in September. And this is going to be your like flagship run of it, right?
It really, yeah, it's my beta launch. So
Yeah.
because of my beta launch, it's actually being offered at a $500 discount
Wow,
because I
my
want
God,
to
that's
tweak. Yeah, I want to tweak it. I want to get feedback and I want to understand how I can make it better,
amazing.
and
Wow.
have it be my flagship offering. Because I think the more we have this in the hands of people to understand themselves and their chart, the more compassionate and caring they are for themselves. And it actually really
Yeah.
becomes a catalyst for healing and change. So, astrology it's an intuitive modality and it's considered a divination form, but
Yeah.
there's so much more to it and there's so much data behind it. They've
So
really
much.
worked. Yeah. So it took me 6 years to get my certification. Like
Wow.
it's not easy. There's a lot to know. And I really was very mindful with what I included in the program because I really wanted to be applicable, make sense for your chart, and so to understand your birth chart. So there's a lot of extraneous information that I'm like, oh, do you really need to know that for any sort of purpose? No, it really is
Yeah,
like,
well, and just to
yeah,
get started, that's the cool thing about it is with what you're going to
yes,
teach, they could really get started. That's,
yes,
I think it's so frustrating. I feel like this about my healers groups too. A lot of, I think energy healing's amazing. And I have this little bit of a pet peeve of, I think there's a place, of course, for like weekend workshops and things, but I don't think it prepares someone for actually rolling up their sleeves and feeling like they're ready to dive right in. And I know
mm-hmm.
that's what this program is going to do for people, is just make them feel like they speak the language of astrology enough that they can roll up their sleeves and take a look at their chart and know some stuff.
Yes, and even just understand when I'm talking about Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, then I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what that is. I know
Yeah.
what that means, or I got it in my notes, and can start to reference it because that's how you start to really learn astrology is when you start to apply it and start to understand how that energy affects you and what's happening and seeing it happen in your life, right?
And it's
So,
even so cool to see it like this year is affecting your life, because this is you stepping more into your soul's purpose, more into like the light you're shining for the community, and what you're giving to the collective. And like, see, astrology is real in all of our lives.
well,
It's so amazing.
and I'll share with you a little piece of my chart, my progress chart. So, meaning what's happening in this year of my life. Pluto progresses past my ascendant now into my first house. So it's like it doesn't happen to everyone. It actually rarely happens.
Are you
Not
an
really, depending.
Aquarius?
No, it's because of where it was in my birth chart by solar
Okay.
arc progression.
Okay.
So it was in Libra, which also is going to be activated by the nodes of the moon moving into Libra Aries. So it's really interesting how it's all working out. I had a reading done from someone I really trust, and she's like, "Girl, did you see Pluto's progressing into your first house?" I'm like, "Oh my god, how did I miss that?" I use a different
So
form of
funny.
progression, and she's like, "It's a big year. It's a big year of
Wow.
transformation." I'm like, I don't know what that's gonna be. Yeah, it's been a big year of transformation,
So
Joy.
exciting.
Let me
But like
tell
you
you.
said, letting the what's not serving you slip away, and really,
Yeah.
kind of shedding the old and moving into
Mm-hmm.
the light that you are. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
I think thank you. And one of the things I've really had to release myself is the energy of proving. Because I sort of like, there's so many people in
Yeah.
astrology that are so much more knowledgeable than me that have been around forever. I mean, I know a lot about astrology, but there's like the old timers that have been around forever. I know all these different kinds of progressions, all these different kinds of astrology. And I'm like, whew, can I be teaching this?
Yeah.
And there was a real release of this prover energy over the last few weeks where I'm just like, you know what? I don't have to prove anything to anyone.
Yeah.
I'm really done with proving that I can talk to spirit, that spirit exists, that I'm qualified, just name everything that you have to
Yeah.
prove. And this, I feel like this is going to resonate with someone who's listening or watching the podcast too, is that where do you feel like you got to prove yourself?
Yeah.
Where do you feel like you're not enough because you don't
I
have
think it's
enough
all in
degrees or
so many
schooling?
areas, right? We all have some
Yeah.
area, and then it's so beautiful that you shared that. Thank you. Because like, as we continue to grow and move into our journey, whatever our soul's purpose is, there are still things that are going to rise up as kind of old stuff we
That's
used to
right.
do, or old
Yeah,
patterns. And now here, like, you've been doing this work for so many years and you're ready to move to this next thing, and there it rises up again. So
it's true.
it's a testament to your growth that you recognized it, that you were able to process it. And that's the power of the work, is, for me anyway, I feel like recognizing these things when they do come up, of like, oh, okay, I'm doing that prover thing again, which girl, I got a lot of it, so I know what it is. Like, okay, this is me. Am I valid? Do I need to, respond to this? Do I have permission to trust my gifts? Whatever it is in everyone's life, but it kind of is a big part of what, doing this work gets us, is just maybe perspective.
Well, you think about when you get to this level, because astrology sort of talks about we're all spiraling through the universe, but we're also spiraling upward in our evolution. So, as you spiral upward now without this prover energy, I might see my money trauma in a different way. I definitely see my mediumship in a different way. Holy moly, Joy. Like, it has been, I was actually going to drop out of my mentorship program with Andy. I was sort of feeling like this isn't for me. I was really like losing the joy of my mediumship. And I'm like, I don't know if this is meant for me anymore. Like, maybe it was just my gift to get me to this, and now I need to let that go. And then I had this, like, again, wild shaman experience on the weekend, 2 weekends ago. And I was like, I don't need to prove nothing to nobody. I am done with it. And I had to reschedule my client because it didn't go well the week before. And I said, it's just not working right now. So you have a choice. You can reschedule or you can refund. I'll happily refund you. You want a refund, right? And she's like, I'd like to reschedule. I'm like, wow. Okay, I'll reschedule you. And then that Monday after the shaman experience, I had her again, and it was like, I got a name, I got a place. I was getting like information that I used to get when you're a beginner medium, right? All of this like lovely stuff comes in and you're like, I'm so good. And then you're like, not good at all, because spirit takes that all away and goes, now we're doing the deep work, right? It feels like that's come back again, because I'm like, you know what? I'm here to help people heal, right? And through grief, or through astrology, through everything, like I have all these tools to help people moving through difficult transitions in their life, and mediumship is one of those tools. So is astrology. So if I can use this, I just want to help her in whatever way it needs to. And if the details come in, so be it, but I'm enough just the way I am. And it was like one of the best sessions ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do more now, because
that's amazing.
There's this new level now of seeing myself where I just feel like free. I feel free.
I love when that happens in the work too. I feel like I don't know, it's cyclical, just like everything else, but we do all this heart pouring in and this soul searching and all the practicing and all the meditating, sitting, all the things.
Yes.
And then feels like we're walking backwards in quicksand, and then all of a sudden something clicks together, and it's, maybe it's an emotion that we've moved through, or maybe it's something in our understanding clicking together, but then we have these little time periods, which is, I think, what keeps us in it. But little time periods of like, this is so great. I feel like I'm helping and doing, my work. So
Spirit's like, we're not done with you yet. And I was like,
God, I know. That's what I try to tell people. Like, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not.
So not only as an entrepreneur, you're on the fast track of personal development, because your business reflects back to you ways that you're stuck, right? And then, a medium, you're on the extra fast track of personal development, because spirit reflects back to you ways that you're stuck in your own life and your own development. So you have to be in constant personal development as a medium, because otherwise you run into these sort of ruts or these plateaus that you hit.
So
right?
True. Yeah. Well, it has been so fun. I can't believe this time went by so fast. And I'm going to lock you in right now for another
yes.
You'll come back and hang out with us again.
We should do it in December. Yeah, we should be December.
Every 6 months at least.
Yes.
To get our updates and our self-reflection questions, which I love. For anyone who is remotely interested in learning and being involved with your own chart, as you know, I adore Sheetal and highly recommend her course.
Thank you so much.
So check out her Instagram. I will put the link in the show notes. You can also go to sheetalstory.com and sign up for her newsletter and list, and I'm sure you'll hear about the free workshop that way too. But take advantage of at least the freebie workshop and learn some tools. So, because it all starts with a tool, right?
Yes,
Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you.
I'm excited for the next 6 months. We don't know what exactly it's going to look like for each of us, but it's going to be forward moving, it sounds like.
Absolutely. If you're triggered, it means you're growing, right? You have an opportunity to understand yourself in a deeper way. So keep growing. And I'm wishing you all such happiness and self-discovery in the best and easiest ways in the rest of 2023.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here with us again.
Thank you, Joy.
That was so much information, and now we are all set up to know not only the themes that are coming up for us throughout the rest of the summer, as well as into the fall and into the end of the year, which I can't even believe that we're about halfway through the year. But with these themes, we can really reflect on our own lives. And I love this idea, which we did talk about in that 7 themes for a 7-year episode. And Sheetal touched on it in the last episode we did, which is episode 13, if you want to check that out, where, by the way, we talk all about her bio and how she developed and marinated in the type of astrology that she does. So if you want to learn more about her in that regard, visit that episode, because she talks all about her gifts as a child and her journey, which we didn't go into today just because we had done it previously. But I just love the way she works with her astrology in a way that is very not only user friendly, but gives us actual actionable steps that we can do, or reflection points and questions to sit with within ourselves. Because the truth is, the more we get to know and understand ourselves through our own charts, but through our own personal development and through the way that we move through the world, the more that we can move in the direction that really calls to us, or manifest what we want, however you want to say it. So if you have thought about learning astrology at all, I highly recommend Sheetal's course. You've met her here a couple of times. She is truly a beautiful soul and cares so much about her work and about the individuals that she's working with. So highly recommend her. Again, you can go to her Instagram page at Sheetal Story, and it's Sheetalstory. I'll link it in the show notes, but check out that free, the early sign up, the wait list, so that you could get whatever that special bonus is that she's going to be offering. And so you can hear about the free workshop that she's doing, whether or not you choose to do the course, at least get the free information. I'm going to try to be there, and I do think that there's some replays on it, so if you can't make it live, but check that out over there. I will also link all of her contact points in the show notes, so if you want to work with her privately, you can consider that as well. She's a fantastic practitioner, not only of astrology, but mediumship, and she's a grief counselor, and so many amazing things that this woman does. So thanks for being with me again, as always. If you haven't gotten to work with me yet, you can check out my website, joyfulmedium.com. There is a free mini course, the 3-day sign magnet mini course that's available to you if you want, right on the homepage of my website. But I also do one-on-one readings and sessions, and I'd love to have the opportunity to get to know you. If you have some questions about the spirit world, or about anything to do with metaphysics, different areas of spirit communication, and of how these gifts work, shoot them my way. Email admin@joyfulmedium.com. I'm going to do a Q&A episode. A few people have asked for it. So send me your questions, and I'll do a whole episode where I will just answer the most common questions, or maybe the most interesting or unusual questions. Who knows? Spirit's in charge. We'll see how it's going to shape up. But if you've got questions about spiritual gifts, or about, mediumship or the spirit world, I'll do my best to answer them. I think that could be a really fun episode, and a few of you've asked for it, like I said. Big hugs. We will be together next week. Lots of love, and make sure you go check out Sheetal on her platforms and say hello and let her know that you heard her right here in the Spirit Speakeasy. Big hugs, lots of love. Bye for now from inside the Spirit Speakeasy.